What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast. We have rebranded. We are now Reseller Nirvana Podcast. And our goal is to help everyone pick a number of listings that they want to sell. Like, let's say, for example, 20 a day, and help you reach that Reseller Nirvana where you list 20 and sell 20 every single day. Today, we have a really special treat for you guys. We actually have a third person on the call, Alfredo. We're going to talk about how he actually built his business up to $25,000 a month before quitting his day job. So people always ask about the transition into full time. We want to go over that today. Also, we have live coaching with our Patreon members today. So after this interview, we're going to go into questions that you guys can ask us or Alfredo. And Alfredo, you're free to leave at any time. But let's get straight into introducing you. Where do you live? What do you sell? And give us a little nugget about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Alfredo Flores. I live in Flowery Branch, Georgia, which is the northern part of Georgia. I focus mainly on shoes, used shoes from thrift stores. And I started doing this niche because of Rinzi now. I followed them like a few years back. And then this business model looks like it works. And I just wanted to make sure that it would keep working. So I just followed them on Instagram, started doing my other side hustles that I failed at, or like I lost interest at. And then like a year later, they were still doing the same thing and they were actually growing. So I was like, oh, this hustle works, and they've actually been growing. So I started testing that one out. And then, I mean, the first time that I tried their business model out, I just went to like a random thrift store, like on a Wednesday, like a Goodwill. And I went to the shoe section and I didn't find anything. So I was like, oh, this obviously doesn't work. And then I just kind of moved on to a different side hustle. Then eventually, I saw this video with Gary Vee where he talked about focusing on a specific niche or a specific thing and just giving it your all for 6 months. So then I stopped doing every small side hustle that I was trying to do. And then I just focused all on shoes for 6 months, and it did work. And then slowly but surely, I started getting like a little bit of a few active listings, and then I just kept adding to it every week. And then, I mean, it was paying off. And then I kept up with like everything that Renzi was posting on their Instagram. And that always like gave me motivation, and that always gave me good tips. And I just kept building on that.
So for people who are unfamiliar, do you want to give an overview of the Rinzi model? We've had Rinzi on this podcast before as well. So what do they preach?
They preach starting with a low budget, starting with reselling shoes that you already have at your home, starting finding a pair of shoes, selling them for like $25, making sure that they're all clean, making sure that you're putting up a good listing, good photos, and then just flipping that your first pair for like $25, going to the thrift store, finding another 5 pairs that you can easily find for like $5 each, cleaning them up, and just multiplying that business model.
That model is awesome. And I think everyone should start there, even if they are tempted to go. When you were first starting, did you make any mistakes, or because there's a lot between that selling stuff at home and $25,000 where you're at right now per month?
Yeah, so definitely, like, since this was my side hustle and I had my regular 9 to 5, I just ended up like putting my own money like right away. Like every 2 weeks when I got paid, I would go and source because that's always the most fun part. And then I would just go to Goodwills, and then I would pick anything that was brand name, even if it wasn't the best quality of
Mm.
shoes. So I picked up a lot of trash in the beginning. And then like I had a business partner that I convinced to start with me. And then he would just like look at the shoes that I would bring, and he'd be like, "Man, why are you picking these up? These are like super dirty." And he just didn't see I guess the vision that I had. And honestly, I picked up a lot of bad shoes. So that was like one main bad mistake. The guy just threw in all the money that I had, and I just wanted to fill bags just like they did, but the quality was not there in the beginning.
So
But I
for
had to learn because yeah, go ahead.
you sell on Poshmark primarily, right?
Yeah, because that's where they started on. So that's where I started. I started on Poshmark and then slowly moved on to Mercari.
because for all of your posts that you put in the group, like the biggest thing that I admired about you was everything was professional, everything was very clean with your whole operation, even having a 9 to 5 job. And you've always had a priority to maintain like a work-life balance. You were always taking weekend trips, you were always doing fun stuff, and like you still maintained the 9 to 5 and the business.
Yeah. I mean, I started the side hustle because I did not want to continue my 9 to 5, even though it was a good 9 to 5. I loved it. So there was days where I was just like, this is not going to lead me anywhere, and I definitely wanted to have something on the side. And then I never really thought that it was going to become so massive to the point where I could quit that and feed myself by just doing this, you know. But yeah, I did focus a lot of my time. Well, I mean, usually, or when I did focus all of my time on this real selling shoe business, it was when COVID was going on. So you couldn't really travel anywhere. I did go out and still thrift while people were locked down, because I guess it was a little bit laws were looser over here on this side, and the thrift stores that I went to, they remained open as long as you went like with a mask. So I mean, I really couldn't even go anywhere, so I just decided to focus most of my free time doing all this. Now that everything is opening back up, I'm starting to do my more social and traveling activities and all that.
When
But yeah,
did
I mean, it all. Mhm.
when did you fit it in? So you worked a 9 to 5. Did you do anything before work or mostly after work?
So actually, like the first couple of months, like at my regular job, we were doing like 12-hour shifts. So we would do 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then I would sleep a few hours, and then I would get up. Because like honestly, like going out to buy stuff, that was the most addicting part to me. Like I really liked finding shoes. So I guess that would wake me up. In the beginning, like I was definitely not as consistent. Like I would just go a few times a week. But as I saw like my growth and like my money started growing as well, like it just became more addicting to keep doing that. So my old schedule was like, yeah, I would go to work at 6 p.m., get off at 6 a.m., probably sleep for like 6 hours. And then I wouldn't actually ship every day. So that would give me a few, like I would ship like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that would make Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would primarily focus on going on my larger Goodwill thrifting routes. And then I would just come back and like clean, and then I would get ready to work again. I guess in the beginning, I did focus a lot of my time just on grinding, grinding it out.
I think that's the reality for a lot of people who are starting this. When I started this at a full-time job, I think you do what you can, and we're not going to give away your exact route, but you do you in the stores that you go to, do you go to a similar route each week?
Now I do. In the beginning, it was all Goodwills, and like what I did, I just looked up on Google Maps
Mm.
every Goodwill in my route, and I would just divide it up into like five routes. I would just circle whatever was closest, and I would be like, okay, this today I'm going over here. Today I'm going over here. Today I'm going over here. Nowadays, I don't. I only have like I think it's 7 or 6 actual thrift stores that I go to, but they're the same ones. Um, Usually it was Wednesdays and Fridays were my thrifting days. So Wednesday, I would go to, there's three that are closest to me. It takes me about 3 hours and 30 minutes, but usually I can pick up like 30 to 40 shoes between those three. And then now that I do have more free time, there's three other ones that are like a little bit further away. Those I wouldn't go as often just because they were so far. And that would actually save those three for Sundays, because if you spend at least $50 per, like at a store, like Monday through Saturday, they would give you 50% off for Sunday. So Wednesdays and Fridays, I would go to my local ones and I would get those coupons. And on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. when they open, I would hit up the other ones that were further away for 50% off, which is a good, it was a good discount that they had. But yeah, right now I'm only doing 7 thrift stores, but it's that chain of thrifts that I have near me. They're a little bit more expensive, but they have really good quality shoes.
Tech, do you have any advice for people who are building thrift store routes? Same with you, Alfredo, because I'm about to try that myself. Do you start with the furthest away location? Do you do the, it's there's definitely some strategy.
Yeah,
So for
that's definitely something that I learned from Renzi. They were always start with the furthest one away, and
Mm.
then just build your way back. If you pick up more shoes in the first couple of ones, you don't really have to pick or go to the last ones in your routes.
when I was doing the thrift route, I would around here all the thrifts are kind of clustered together. So there could literally be an intersection with a Goodwill, Salvation Army, and then like a smaller chain thrift all on three of the four corners. So what I would do is every day of the week I would pick a different city to go to. So on my Tuesday route, that was my closest route. That was the ones that were in my city. And I would go to I would go to about 6 or 7 that day, but my furthest route was on Thursday because Thursdays I used to go to the flea market in the morning. And then on the way home, I would hit the route coming back on the way home. But every day I made like a big circle from my house to whatever city I was going to, and then hit the stores looping my way back. And I always made sure to, if it was morning time, don't go in the morning traffic, but go the opposite way of the morning traffic. And then when you're coming back, everyone's kind of heading home and you're coming back smooth sailing. So I used to do the opposite traffic pattern. I used to go to the same stores at the same time, eat lunch at the same places at the same time. But I would do it the same way, a big circle, and I would always complete the circle. So if I didn't find stuff, I would still complete the circle. If I found a massive amount of stuff, I would still complete the circle. But I always like to do it a circle from the house. That way you have a start and a finishing point rather than like a straight line and come back driving past all the thrifts that you just went to.
Mm. Alfredo, do you
How
have
long?
a goal
Sorry.
for each week, or a budget, or how do you set aside how many shoes to buy?
Well, since I've been trying to do 30 a day, I'm trying to do 210 shoes per week. Before I actually quit my job, I was just throwing as much money as I had extra, like into getting more shoes. Like I wouldn't really set any money aside for myself.
Mm.
If I spent more to get more shoes, that was perfectly okay. If I went negative, like if every a week or so, that wouldn't matter because I knew like in the end, like it was gonna pay off. So that's why I do have like a lot of shoes in my in storage, ready for me to list. But yeah, like just because I knew that I wasn't living off that money, I could definitely just throw all of it back in because I knew it was just going to get reinvested. And that's pretty much what I've been doing up until like this point. Just reinvested everything in shoes because that's my biggest expense every week. I spent like around $3,100 a week on shoes.
Mm.
Yep, that's good because yeah, like I said, I want to reinvest most of
So
it.
you're spending up, you're buying the good stuff.
Yep,
Okay.
and like ever since I moved from Goodwills to like this other chain of thrift stores, because I
Hmm.
remember the first time I went to this specific thrift store that I go to now, the prices were so much higher, and I was like, man, this is so expensive. Why would I
Hmm.
go here when I can go to Goodwill and pick up like 3 or 4 for the price of one that I pick up here?
Hmm.
But like now, I see that the ones that I pick up here are pretty much already cleaned, already or like in like new status. So I don't even have to put that much more time into it. So now I'm okay with spending like more money to get higher quality shoes, if that makes sense. Yeah.
How
Was
long did? Oh, go ahead.
was the 210 per week, was that calculated before you started so you knew you had X amount of dollars left over to pay the bills with that money now that you are full time? How did you get to the 210 per week to start off your full time?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that. I guess I was just thinking, how many can I do per day without like, or like in a timely manner while still having my 9 to 5? Because in the beginning I would do like 10, and then that became easy to do, and then I moved to 15, and then I was able to do that, and then I was like, let's try 30. So 30 is what I think is my sweet spot. I feel like if I do any more, the quality of the shoes that I get is going to go down,
Mm.
and I may have to go to like Goodwill's. The quality is probably also going to go down if I start going, or if I start moving to more daily listings. And then like I'm already going through like issues with like my shoe racks falling over because of all the shoes that I currently have. So I think 30 for right now to keep the same quality is good for me. Plus I only sell like between 90 and 120 a week. So that gives me like a excess of like around 80 to like 100 every week that are just going into the inventory, which I think that's perfectly fine for me.
So
Like,
I have a
mhm,
question for both of you guys. So Isaiah in the group, he spends a lot of time cleaning his shoes, but his cost of goods is way lower.
mhm.
So Alfredo, his cost of goods is probably triple or quadruple Isaiah's, but he doesn't have to clean anything. So in order for Alfredo to make that leap, he needed to start off with the 9 to 5 to have that capital built up, where Isaiah is starting from the ground floor and he needs his cost of goods to be lower. But like, at what point do you source already clean shoes versus continuing to clean shoes for the rest of your life? Or do you clean shoes for the rest of your life?
I think it's a combination of both. Um, like right now, like I'm also buying from another smaller reseller around my local area, and the ones that I get from her cost me like around $16 to $17 per shoe. But those are definitely like already ready to list. I think like now that I do have more time, I am gonna go back and spend a little more time and pick up maybe some of the shoes that I wouldn't pick up because I have that extra time to clean them. So I guess like for me, like I'm gonna do both, like just because I have the extra time to do so. And that would also mean that I can spend less time going out to source if I pick up a little like I guess dirtier shoes and clean them up at home. Maybe eventually get a shoe cleaner.
This is like
Yeah.
this is such a tremendous conversation because the balance of you can find high quality items. Everyone can find a few high quality items. When you start increasing the number of listings you want each day, you start picking up
Right.
less and less profit things until tech calls it chasing pennies at a certain point. You're buying stuff that's really questionable, not the right brand, and not the best condition just to meet your goal.
Right.
Yeah. See, like now, like even like I guess the shoes that I've had for a while, now if I get like an offer of like I guess like $20, if I even make a few bucks, I'm okay with letting them go now because I know that the next shoe that I pick up is going to be higher quality.
Yeah.
And like now I'm getting more into the volume game where I'm just trying to move the shoe.
Because for me, like, I like to have price points for every buyer. Like, not every buyer is that top tier buyer. Some of them are like everyday value. Some of them are okay with a shoe
Yeah.
that's a little more used, that's a little more affordable. And if you could capture that top tier buyer, the one that you already have, and then capture that one that is kind of in the middle or towards the lower end, then because you could still go out there and find those shoes as well. But a lot of people kind of get stuck at the point of saying, like, or the thinking of, it takes me the same amount of time to list an item that I'm going to make $12 on that I'm going to make $30 on. But at some point, you run out of all the $30 profit shoes. So if you want to scale, you have to get shoes that are less profitable and maybe shoes that require a little bit of elbow grease. Because believe me, I list 90,000 items a year. I wish none of them had flaws, but I can't find 90,000 items a year that do not have flaws. And that slows me down because that requires more photos, that requires a better description, that requires some customer service from time to time. So like there is that trade-off where, Alfredo's spending up for shoes that are already clean, or you can get more shoes for the same amount of money, but they require more work on the back end.
The extreme version of that is buying something that's brand new. You're paying all the money. If you shop only Nike outlet, you might have a cost of goods sold of $40 to $60. And the number one booth at my flea market is Nike's in the $40 to $60 range. There's a gentleman that does $100,000 every Sunday. He sells 2,000 pairs of Nikes for around $50, and his cost is around $40. That is like the largest pool of buyers is $50 brand new. So you guys need to think about that when you're selling in the shoe game. People can buy a brand new shoe for $50 in not the best brand. You're competing against that. You're selling your pre-owned, fancier, better style. You're competing against the $50 brand new shoe, and it's interesting looking at that. Do you have a minimum profit goal or margin? Because a lot of people are asking that in the chat.
Minimum. Honestly, well, I average around 10 to 15 to $20 per profit per shoe. Like honestly, like if nowadays, if I can move some of the ones that have been there for a while and I can make a few bucks, as long as I'm not losing money, I'm okay with making that. But I think on average, it's between 10 and $20 profit.
That sounds right. Sounds right.
When you go sourcing, what are you looking for? Like women's running shoes? Are you looking for basketball shoes, boots? Like what kind of shoes are you really kind of looking for when you're out there?
I mean, yeah, athletic shoes, women's shoes, anything that like looks new, like Vans that are looking like that are in good shape, Converse, if you see Brooks, Hugo, Neone, anything athletic. I try to stay away from like heels and all that because I don't know that side of things. So yeah, it's like athletic and sneakers is basically what I focus on. But the thing that I like about shoes is that like I can go inside my thrift and I'm done in like 15 to 20 minutes because their section is so small and I already know what I'm looking for.
That's right.
But I mean, how long did it take you to go into the thrift store whenever you would go to your route? Like 15, 20 minutes as well?
Depending on the size of the thrift, but I touched every item in the thrift. So I would start with the jackets because that's the highest ROI. You can spend $5, $7, $10, easily find a $30 or $50 or a $60 jacket almost at every store. And then I would go to the sweaters because that's the second highest ROI. You can find $30 sweaters all the time. And then after that, I would go to the polo shirts, then the button-up shirts, then the t-shirts. And then I would look through the pants and the shorts, glance through the kids to look for like North Face jackets or jerseys, and then kind of stop over in the women's sweaters and jackets just to find same thing, North Face, Patagonia, anything that was the same thing, like a men's clothing item. So it could take probably 30 to 45 minutes for every thrift, but that's because I'm touching every single item. And the clothing section is much larger than the shoe section. If I was looking for women's clothing, I could probably spend over an hour just because the women's clothing is so huge. But over here, some stores might only have 20 pairs of shoes. And I see shoe sellers coming in, they don't even stop. They walk around the rack and they leave if there's nothing good. So their time in the thrift is literally 20 seconds. So, everyone has a different, but they probably hit 40 stores in a day looking for 40 pairs or for 20 pairs. But, my model is, I could hit 5 stores and find 150, 200 items. But so it would really take me about 45 minutes on average, I would say. And that would be finding everything, looking for flaws, prepping everything for the cashier, and then finally cashing out.
Yeah, wow.
When Hustlebee and Glenn Hustler Hacks stayed with me for a few days out here, they averaged 19 stores per day. And it was like 5 minutes a store because there was so much driving. But they knew exactly what they were looking for. It was so fast. They would go through. And I think that if you decide to go, if you do the more store model, it's important to be picky because you have the option of going to 3, 4, 5 more stores. And if you don't find the right items, there's different models. You can also extract. There's people who go to one thrift store and extract every single category. There's really nothing wrong with that model too. If you have the patience to list so many different categories.
That's what I had to do when I was doing 120 per day with a mega thrift route. I had to get everything. Otherwise, I would spend literally my entire day thrifting if I was picky. If I would only pick up certain brands, then I would spend 24 hours out of a 24-hour day sourcing, and I'd have no time to list. So, if you go to many stores, that means your focus is real small. But if you can go to, a handful of stores and that catches you up for the whole week, then you have a wider focus. So if Alfredo sprinkled in clothes and hats, he would only have to go to a couple stores. But since he's only shoes, he has to check the shoes, check the shoes, check the shoes. So he's going to have a little bit of a larger route.
Do you
Yeah,
have
but
a?
also
Go ahead.
I don't think I could do clothing. Like like a clean shoe is a clean shoe, no matter if it's like women's, kids. Like once you pick it up, it looks nice. I don't know if I could do that with like clothing. Like look at dresses, like
It's a
jackets. I feel like it's just
different
so
game.
much. Definitely, definitely.
Do you have a shoe test that you put the shoe through before you take it home? Do you bend it in half? Do you look at the insoles? What do you check out on the condition?
Yeah, make sure that there's like this is like the Rinzi method. No rips, tears. Make they don't pick up shoes that don't have like insoles. I do because I know how to get like cheap Walmart double thick insoles that work well for me. Um, that's about it. Yeah, the bend test. But I guess I'm more of the speed game if I pick up like one or two pairs, just because like I guess I used to put in my own money. If I picked up one or two pairs that weren't up to par when I brought him back home. It was it didn't matter to me. Like it was okay with throwing him away.
So
But
You
yeah,
in the morning call, we were talking about like what makes you curious to look up a new item? Like if you find something made in Italy, will that pique your interest? Or if you see a new brand you've never seen before? Because like I've done shoes in the past as well. And for the Hokas, like I've looked at tens of thousands of pairs of shoes and I never saw Hoka before. So I looked them up and said, these things sell for $80 all day used. So, since you do know what shoes you want, Vans, Converse, Nike, Jordan, at what point do you pick something up and it's gonna like what clues would a shoe give you to investigate it further?
the quality, like you can, I guess nowadays I can tell the ones that are fake, the ones that are just like heavy to be like bulky. Um, if it's like something that has Gore-Tex, but usually I kind of don't really pick up that many shoes that I don't know, even if I do research on them. Because like I've done that in the past, and usually like those shoes just sit there. I guess I just stick to the same ones that I keep finding, and I guess the ones that whenever I do come up with new ones to pick up, it's because like I've seen them on other people's like Instagram, like Renzi. They're like, oh, we found these ones. They're good. We sold them for this much. But usually, I guess I kind of just stay away and just stick to my normal ones, bread and butter, Nike, all that.
Do you have a touch-up process? I know some people are mentioning Dawn is a really good cleaner. And I think the reason why dish soap is so good at cleaning anything is because it's a powerful degreaser. So it's like dish soap can clean a lot of things, but do a quick once over, wipe things down, wipes? Is there any tips you have for cleaning?
Yeah, well, I started with this Kiwi brand sneaker cleaner that I found in Walmart. It's like foaming. And then I moved over to the Grandma Secret sneaker cleaner. So that's what I use nowadays with like the magic erasers. That works really well. And yeah, that's about it. Because like I said, the shoes that I pick up, they're pretty clean already. So there's not much that I need to touch them up with.
The
And
grandma's
like,
is good for clothes as well.
yeah, and then I also dilute it with some water because I think by itself it's a little too strong. But and then nowadays, since I'm spending or like since I do clean my shoes more when I'm at the thrift, if they're too dirty, I just don't pick them up. Like my main rule every time I go sourcing is like always be strict. Like every day, like every time I go back into the thrifts, I'm like pick or become stricter at sourcing because every once in a while I start picking up like worse shoes, and then when I'm home, I'm just like, why did I pick this up? It's gonna take me so much more to clean.
Do you pick up those worst shoes when you're having a bad day and you're desperate? Because
Mm,
sometimes I have
yeah,
to stop myself. If I'm having a bad day, I have to say, I can't buy this. I can't be desperate. I've done that
yeah,
before.
definitely. Like when the first one or the second thrift, they don't have that many shoes. I guess I wanna make sure that I have a bag full of shoes, so I start giving myself break, or I start thinking like, oh, this shoe isn't that bad. I can definitely replace the shoelaces, or like I can take off the mud or the gum underneath. And then I get home and I'm like, why did I pick this up?
Yeah, I've been there, man. That's a
Yeah,
big thing. Like if things aren't going right, you have to be disciplined enough to say, this is not what I'm set up for. This is not what I do. I can't make a desperate buy. And you have to move on and you have to hit the next store, or you have to, live to see another day and you hit it tomorrow.
I guess that's why whenever I have like a fruitful day and I do pick up a lot of shoes, or I buy more than I need that day, I just set them aside in case that one day like I don't find shoes, which hasn't been a problem for me yet. Like I can always find shoes.
I want to point out that the most counterfeited category in the world is athletic shoes. So it is important that you understand the different materials. And that if you do it for a while, you can definitely tell the quality. You can look at the stitching, you can look at the tag and get an idea if it's fake or not. But just be careful. It's easy to get suspended selling fake shoes, very easy. And those brands there's no mercy because I mean, we saw that Allbirds thing happen a few months ago. It's going to be more common because brands are just protecting themselves. If you guys would like to listen to the rest of the podcast, please join us at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast, where you can listen to the full episode and all 47 full-length episodes. Please check out the thumbnail of the background of the video for all the benefits that we offer in our group, and we'll see you guys next week.